Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. So, in this video, we will be looking at the basics of Excel. Okay, so for day one, this is getting started with Excel. For day one, we looked at introduction to Microsoft Excel interface. We looked at navigating worksheets and workbooks, understanding the workbooks, moving between cells and rows, creating, deleting, and renaming worksheets, freezing panes for better navigation, basic data entry and formatting, basic formatting, fonts, colors, and borders, autofill and flash for quick data entry using basic operators. For day two, we had an overview of day one, and we did a little bit of data visualization with simple charts like bar charts, pie charts, formatting and customizing charts, understanding cell references, and then introduction to basic formulas such as sum, average, counts, max, minimum, whatever. So we go straight into it, right? So what we start with are like an introduction to Excel interface. So I'll just open up a new worksheet here, right? So once you open your Excel workbook, okay, the first thing you're going to notice The first thing you're going to notice in your Excel workbook is the layouts, rather the Excel layouts, right? And that's you can see where the cursor is hovering here. That's the top, right, part of the Excel interface. And on the interface, right, on the Excel layouts rather, you have tabs, right, where you have file, home, insert, draw, page layouts, formulas, data review. All of these are tabs, okay? And when you click on a tab, what opens up here is a ribbon. Okay, so all of these, the whole of this here is a ribbon. Just follow where the cursor is. The whole of this is a ribbon. And then in the ribbon, you have groups. And the groups are divided by these thin lines or these thin borders. Okay, so this is a pivot group, for example. This is a group for charts. Okay, this is a group for slicers or whatever. Okay, so and then in each group, you have tiny buttons here. These tiny arrows are pointing downwards. These are called launch buttons. So the launch button pretty much expands, excuse me, a group. So you can see like more options that are embedded in the back end. So if I click on this one here, you can see that it opens up a layout called format cells, and you can see other options that cannot fit into this ribbon. Okay, so that's pretty much the bit that speaks to Excel layout. So the next thing you want to look at here is if you come further down, you have a formula bar. So in this formula bar, this is where your formulas are going to appear. So if you're writing a formula here in this cell or in the spreadsheet, your formulas will always appear here as well on the formula bar. And it's important for you to understand how to use this formula bar, because if you have any mistakes in your formula or your functions, you can always come to the formula bar to edit, to have a look at it and troubleshoot it. Okay, and the next thing we have here is the name box. So the name box shows you the name of the cell. So for example, you can see where this box is, right? This is G3, this is column G and row 3. That gives it the name cell G3. And in the name box, you can always see what cell you are at the moment. Okay. If you come further down, the next thing you're going to see is the spreadsheets. Okay. So the spreadsheets, I know Excel has like over what's it called now? Over a million columns, if I'm right, and then 16 over 16,000 rows. Yeah. So that's a lot. So if you want to make data entry, you want to capture data or whatever, there's enough space for you to do that in Excel. Okay. And each cell pretty much is an intersection of a column and a row. Mind you, a column, if you look at where the cursor is at the moment, from F1 down is a column, right? However, where you have one here going across horizontally, that is a row, okay? So that's pretty much about the Excel interface and the spreadsheets. And Excel, you can always open up new sheets. So if I come to this button down here, I click on new sheet, a new sheet pops up, and you can just double click on it to rename it immediately. And just type anything you want to type in, right? You come here, click on this one, you type whatever, Google or something. That is how to rename worksheets in Excel. Open new worksheets and rename worksheets in Excel. So that's very simple. Okay, so you can come to the course outline. We have had a look at introduction to the Excel interface. You can always take this as complete. We've seen how to navigate worksheets and workbooks. Okay, we have an understanding of this. We have been able to I've been able to outline or explain, sorry, how to move between cells, rows, and columns and all of that, okay? So the next thing we want to look at is creating, deleting, and renaming. Oh, we've looked at this as well, worksheet. So to rename this or to delete this, we've renamed this already. So you just simply right click, you put your cursor down here on the sheet title, you right click, you can come up here, you can see where the delete option is, simply click delete and it's gone. So that's actually very easy and straightforward, okay? So we come back to the course outline. So what's the next thing we want to look at now? Freezing panes for better navigation. Okay, so freezing panes are very simple. The first thing you realize here is that we have a column header that says day one, getting started with Excel. And if you scroll upwards, you see that the column header disappears, right? So in any case where you are working on your spreadsheet and you want your column header to remain, you want it to be static, okay? You don't want it to disappear. You simply highlight that column. In most cases, you don't even really need to highlight it. Come to review. Hold on, my Excel is not responding. Okay, good. So you come to the view tab, right? And then you can see freeze panes here. If you click here, you can now see different options. Freeze top row, freeze first column, freeze panes. So if I click on freeze top row, for example, you will see that this header, the top row here, will be static. If you scroll, see it doesn't move again. It just stays there, okay? Do Control Z, and then you have undone that. Oh, it's still there. Okay, so to remove that, you simply come in here and click on freeze panes, right? And it's gone. Okay, so that's that. Same thing applies to the other spots. So if you want to freeze first column, for example, the first column is here on this side where you have column A. So if I swipe to the right, you see that column A still remains, it's static, okay? But if I come in here and I click on freeze panes and I try to move, you see it's moving again. Okay, so we are done freezing panes for better navigation. So the next thing we want to look at is basic data entry and formatting. Okay, so we need to move quickly. So if you come here, we have, this is a table that we used for day one. Very simple, very straightforward. I didn't want to use something complex, so we could save time and we could also make this really understandable. So what we have here is Bloomfield Property Group sales inventory. So it's pretty much a table that shows a real estate company's inventory, right? The amounts of properties that they have available, the units that have been sold, the total value of their properties, the revenue, profits, and percentage of profits. Okay, so to make this simple, I'm just going to copy this table. Okay, you can open up a new worksheet and then you can paste as values. Okay, so when we paste as values, you can see here that the table does not appear the way it is on this other table. Okay, this is well formatted and arranged, so it looks neat. Okay, what you have here is not easy on the eye, it's a little bit scattered, if that's the word. So we could just to show how basic data entry is made, right? And then tables are formatted. We can just start with the column, the header, right? the top row where we have the header. We could change this to MTN communications. All right. They have item ID. We have we call this service type. So this is just to show how data entry is made. You move to the next piece and then you have unit price. Unit price could now come to let's say 10,000, 20,000, 25,000, 30,000. Okay, you could just remove this bit here, and then you could just come in here. You could say data bundles. Okay, oh, that's the wrong spelling of bundles. All right, and the next thing you might want to say airtime. You might want to say data gifts. Okay, you might want to say borrow data, something like that. Okay, and then for each of these services, these are the amount of units available. So this is just to show us how to enter data and create a table and format that table. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is, or what I like to do, for my top row, I want to make the header even, because we have about four columns here. So I'll just drag from cell A to cell B, right? A1 to D1. Come to the home tab and come to where you have the alignments group here. You can see merge and center. If I click on that, you can see that automatically my top row has merged from A to D. So it's beginning to take shape. The table is beginning to take shape, right? And the next thing I want to do is to add my borders. So I can highlight the whole table here, come in here, and then I could just say all borders, right? You can see that the table is it has each column now has borders. It's beginning to look more like a proper table. It's easy to understand now, and to make it look a little better, I can add colors to the first header, right? So I might decide to use MTN. This looks more like MTN's kind of color, I believe. I think this one does. I can make it bold, all right? And the next thing I want to do is to highlight the second set of headers. I might choose a different color, say green this time, right? Make that bold as well. So looking at this table now, we can see that we have our header that says MTN communications, item ID, service type, unit price, units available. This is just a simple method on how to create your table and enter data rather into your table. Okay, so that's it for data entry. So we can remove that now. So coming here, let's go back to the course outline to say that we are on track with what we are doing. So basic data entry and formatting, we've done that. So the next thing we want to look, we've seen how to font colors and borders. Okay, I shouldn't have deleted that table. However, fonts, colors, and borders, we've seen how to add colors to the table, add borders. So for the fonts, it's really easy. I could just highlight here the first header, come into this font group under the home tab or in the home ribbon, yeah, under home tab, home ribbon, yeah. Click here and then you can see an array of different fonts you want to use. So you could just come in here and say Aptos display, click on that, the font changes, or you could just use Algerian and you see it changes. So that's really easy and straightforward. Okay, so the next thing we want to look at here is we are done with this. All right, so the next thing we want to look at is auto flash fill and quick data entry. Okay, so let me just take this out. Right. Good. So for auto flash simply means that Excel automatically enters data for you in a column. Okay. So Excel observes your entries, and by clicking one button, Excel automates the entries for you. It's as simple as that. So say for example, you have your item IDs, right? And then let's take out these bits. Okay. You have one here, and we are coming here, type 2. Assuming you had a longer table, say you had data from A1 to A, say 200 or 1000, right? So rather than typing each of these item IDs manually, you could simply come in here and then double click, right? You can see that Excel automatically fills in that column, although it duplicates these values. So once you come into this option that says auto fill option, to click on it, you have different options here. But in this case, let's just look at fill series. Another time we can look at how to use fill formatting or fill without formatting or flash fill. So you click on fill series, for example, you can see that Excel automatically changes these values to how it's supposed to be. So you had um 1, 2, 3, like subsequent numbers following after the other, right? Excel does that for you easily. So that's simple and straightforward. That's one simple trick that you can always use to save time and save yourself the stress of making entries. Okay, so that's that. So the next thing you want to look at is basic operators in Excel. So how do we use basic operators in Excel? So when we talk about operators, right? For now, we're just going to look at plus, minus, multiplication, division, and equal to. For now, all right. There are other operators in Excel like ampersand and the quotation marks and whatnot. But for this particular class, we're looking at the basic operators. So this table, all right, is an embodiment of the basic operators. So we can look into these formulas and we can see here in the formula bar where these basic operators are being used. In this case, we use the multiplication sign. Here we use the minus sign. Here we use the division sign. Okay, so that's it. And you can see that at the beginning of every formula, we have an equal sign. Okay, so this is what we used to create this table to get our numbers. Okay, so that's that. So before we can simply duplicate this table. All right, so we can just put that here. All right, okay, we can put that here, and then we can begin to bring the table to life. So the first thing we want to do is so I'm doing this for the purpose of making it easy for us to understand. I want to have the original table up there and the duplicate so we can just walk through it together. Okay, I can take this out of here instead of taking up space for nothing. All right, well, let's bring this closer so we could just do it again and look at how it's done and look at how we use the basic operators, okay, to create this table. So the first thing you want to do is to merge your header, like the one up top. Okay, you merge it, and then you might want to like give it color or something. All right, and then for the second set of headers, you want to make them stand out as well, so it's easily identifiable. You could use dark blue, and then we could change the font colors to white and still make that bold. All right, and then okay, so the table is pretty much ready at the moment. So if you look at the item ID, what we have here is a property type. We have duplex, bungalow, terrace, plot of land. We have unit price, and you can see that the unit prices are not properly formatted. And you have units available. We can see 15, 25. You have units sold. You have total value. So all of this, right? All of this can go because we have to calculate them again. So we'll start with just a minute. So good. Yeah. So we can start with formatting, all right? So for this unit price now, we want to make sure that each item that has a price attached to it has the monetary symbol, okay, to make it look better, to make it easily identifiable. So we can simply highlight this column here and just come up here to this group. What's it called now? Format cells. So when you under the format cells group, there are different options. We just want to add currency to it. It's that simple. So in this case, let's use dollar. You can simply click on that dollar symbol up there. Excuse me. Called accounting number format. So once you click on it, you can see here easily that the dollar symbol is attached to each price tag. And then we notice that we have decimal points. I don't like my decimal points here. It makes it look too busy. So I can decrease decimal points by clicking on this decrease decimal points tab here. All right, and you can see that everything looks better now. Now you have your units available, you have units sold or whatever. So the next thing you want to do is total value. So up here we can see, let me even bring this down a little bit. Shift cells down, all right? Yeah, that's better. So you can see the formula for total value here is unit price by quantity, or units price by units available. So what does that tell you? That to get a total value here, we multiply unit price, which is cell C14, by units available, which is cell D14. All right. So in Excel, when you want to write your formulas, the first thing you do is to write your equal sign. That's the first thing you do in Excel. So you start with the equal sign, and then you come to this first cell here, you highlight it or you click on it, right? And then you put your multiplication sign, you click on units available. Remember, the formula says units price times what units available. So you press enter, right? And it gives you automatically your results. So all you have to do is just double click on the edge, and then it populates that cell for you. So you don't have to come in and start typing these formulas again and again. No, Excel just observes what you're doing and replicates it, makes it easy. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is, we've used our multiplication sign. The next thing we want to do is calculate our revenue. And what's the formula for revenue? Price times quantity. So again, you start with the equal sign, and then you click on price. So you look at where you have your price, that's units price, right? Put a multiplication sign times what? Quantity, which is units sold, okay? Click on that, press enter. Again, double click on the edge, and then boom, populates revenue for you, okay? And then you come to profits. What's the formula for profit? Revenue minus cost. So what's your revenue? 250. What's the cost of the property? All right. Then you come in here, double click, and it populates for you. Easy peasy. Okay. The next thing you now want to calculate is what the percentage of your profits. What does the formula say for percentage of profits? Profits divided by revenue. Okay, so you simply come in here, put your equal sign, you click on your profits, put a division sign, you put revenue. Boom, easy work. You double click, populate for you, and then to add your percentage, you simply come up here to the formatting, what's it called now? Formatting a group. Under this percentage style tab, click on it, and automatically it gives you everything you need. Okay, now if you look here, you can see something here that shows an error. That's a division error. All right, so the Excel highlights the problem for you. It tells you the formula or function used is dividing by 0 or empty cells. So whenever you're writing a formula and the cell you're referencing, or one of the cells you're referencing, is empty, you're always going to have an error pop up. And so in Excel, there's something called an if statement. Now, an if statement is simply telling Excel, if this arises, if this happens, you're giving Excel conditions, do this. So in this case, we are saying if we have this issue, right? Come in here, come to the formula bar, type if error, let's use if error. because that speaks to what the error is. If error, return as 0. Okay? Oh my bad. So you can see that it just removes the error and gives us 0. Okay, so if error is used, if you know that the formulas you're using, maybe you're referencing an empty cell, is going to give you an error, right? So use that if error to mitigate that problem. It's not really, in some cases, you might just want to leave it that way because you know that maybe later on, if you make entries, the formulas would capture and return the proper numbers. So sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. You just need to know when to use it. Okay, so we've used our basic operators. Okay, now what you are going to do is you're just going to jump straight into the next outline. Okay, so we have overview of day one. We don't even need to look at that because what we are doing is still day one stuff. Okay, before we look at data visualization and understanding cell references, let's just have a quick look at what is in this basic formula. So sum. So for this table, for example, right, we did use the sum function. Okay, we have total here. It's the sum function that was used to create total value, total revenue, total profits, right? So to use that, you come in here, as usual, you type your equal sign, okay? And you simply type sum. And when you type sum, any formula or function that you type the name, Excel gives you a description of what that function can do. In this case, Excel says that sum adds all the numbers in a range of cells. So it makes it pretty explanatory. Even if you've not used it before, the moment you type it in, Excel just gives you something that guides you. So in this case, so when you press enter, you can now come and highlight the cells that you want to add up. Okay, press enter, and Excel returns your total value. Okay, and you simply drag it across board. Okay, so as you drag that formula, you see that Excel does replicate the formula in each of these cells for you. That makes it easy. This one here has a dollar sign because you dragged the formula with that format from this column to the right. That's why it's returning $5, and that's not supposed to be so. So you can simply just delete that bit and then write a fresh formula for that one. Okay. Oh, my bad. Let's remove that, change that to number. Yeah. And then you can add percentage to that. But you see, you cannot add up these percentages, but rather what you might want to do is to use average. An average is much better in this case. So you could simply just say equals to average, come in here, highlight everything, right? 77%. That's the average percentage profits. Okay, so that's that, right? We've done some, we've looked at average. For the count max min if, that was used for day 2 when we created a table looking at mathematics examination results sheets. But before we do that, we're just going to do like a quick visualization. However, I think I'll talk about the cell references when we look at day 2's data table. Okay, so let's quickly look at the basic visualizations. Okay, so looking at this table, so now that we've done this, I think I can just take this out. We don't really need this anymore. So now that we've done this, we want to visualize our data table. Okay, we might want to look at property type, okay, by unit price. Okay, so to create your visuals in Excel, to work with your data tables, you simply highlight the portions that you want to visualize. You come up here to the insert tab, click on that. You come down to this ribbon here where you have charts, the charts group, and then you now select any one that you want to use. In this case, once you click on recommended charts, Excel automatically recommends charts for you. Okay, so in this case, we want to use a clustered column chart. You could use a clustered column chart, or you could use the bar charts, right? Whichever suits your style. I would say in this case, let's use column charts, right? And you can notice also that Excel gives you a description of each of the charts. So this one says a clustered column chart is used to compare values across categories. Okay, same thing here. Clustered bar charts used to compare values across a few categories. Use it when the chart shows duration or when the category text is long. Okay, so this guides you on the appropriate charts you can use whenever you're visualizing data. Click on the bar, the pie chart rather. It says the pie chart is used to show proportions of a whole. Okay, you click on this final chart and it shows represents stages in a process showing progressively decreasing proportions. So from this description, you can see that the first two charts accurately are the proper visuals that you can use to interpret this data, because the last three do not speak to what you're looking at. All right, so you can just go with the first one. Okay, so I think in another class you can look at visuals on a much deeper scale to understand what type of visuals you're using for what type of chart, what type of data, because not all charts fit into all kinds of data. There are different type of data that require specific kind of charts. Okay, so in this case, we've highlighted our property type and unit price, and you can see here, let's come in here and on our data labels, right? So you can see the prices. So for our duplexes, you can see here at a glance that our most expensive property type are duplexes, okay, which stands at 50 million, followed by terraces at 40 million, and then office space at 35 million, and then bungalows and flats at the same price, and then plots of land at 10 million, right? That's easy peasy. Okay, so the next thing you want to look at is you can say property type by unit sold. Okay, come to the insert tab again, come to recommended charts. Can still use this one again. This will accurately describes or visualizes what we are looking at. Okay, hold up. Okay, use. It's not responding though. My Excel is misbehaving. It's probably tired. So let's do that again. Don't know why that never popped up. So let's highlight that again. Let's try this one this time. Yeah, okay. So you can turn on data labels, and we can see here that we've sold flats, 8 flats, all right? So in terms of properties by units sold, we've sold more flats, followed by terraces, and then we've sold only 2 plots of land. So the plots of land are like just the least properties we have sold. However, we've sold more flats than every other property type. So let's not waste too much time on this, because these are like just basic stuff. I feel like creating dashboards are like the easiest bits, okay, or the easiest thing to do in Excel. It's really easy. Just know what you're looking at and know what what chart type you can use to interpret that data. Okay, so that's that. We could also look at, hold on, let's experiment here. Let's see if this would, you know, cover what we are looking at properly. So let's look at profits by property type. Let's see if this is going to work. Let's try out something. It doesn't work. You can't switch row here. That did not work out. Okay. Anyways, we could just move on to day 2 real quick. So what do we have here? So in your spare time, you can always work with this data, try out new things, create your own data tables, try out the formulas and the operators, and then also your own visuals, at your spare time. These things are really easy and straightforward. And it's important for you to understand the basics because this will guide you going forward. Every other thing you're going to do, this is going to guide you. This is really going to be helpful. So for day two, we looked at mathematics examination result sheets. We had students ID, we have name of students, we have sex, we have scores, we have rating, and we have average, maximum, minimum, count of students, count of males, count of females. Okay, so the first thing you're looking at here, you have the scores. So for this bit, right, let's just remove that. Each what was it called now? Say for example, you're taking mathematics, right? We know that I think the normal scoreboard, or sorry, rating rather, for students that have passed, I think it's 50. So anything less than 50 is a fail, right? So in this case, we have, let's see, we have 21 students in this class, okay? And we want to rate them by their score. So that if you want to visualize this data, if you want to look at it any way or something like that, we can now know how to categorize the scores, okay, or the students by their scores. So in this case, you want to say our baseline for pass is 50. So that being said, you can see this formula down here. It's pretty much self-explanatory. So this, we use the if statements for this one, and we told Excel that if the value in this cell is greater than 50, okay, return as what, pass. If not, return as fail. So look at the formula bar here. If D3, which is here, is greater than 50, all right, return as pass. So the first condition here is usually true, and the second condition here is usually false. Okay, so let's do that. You start with your equal sign, you write your if statement. You can see here Excel describes if for you. It says checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another value if false. So value if true here is pass and value if false is fail. All right, so enter, highlight the cell, and you say if that 95 now is greater than 50, which it is, okay, return pass. If not, return fail. Okay, enter. So what's the challenge now? We did not write the number we're supposed to write. That's what happened. Okay, good. So once you double click on that, it just automatically returns the proper rating for each of these scores. Okay, saves the time, easy work. So that's that. We have formulas embedded here for average, maximum, minimum counts. So I'm just going to remove these ones, or we can still leave them there so that you can see them while we are writing them again, or while we are working with them, so you can understand how it works. Okay, so now we are done with the rating. The next thing you want to look at is average. So you want to say what you want to see, rather, what is the average score of students in this class. So what did you equal sign? You write the average function. You can see here average returns the average arithmetic mean of its arguments, which can be numbers or names, arrays or references that contain numbers. So average, right, and then you highlight the cell. So that's D3 to D23. Enter. And you can see that Excel gives you the average, which is what, 52. In this case, you want to see which student had the highest score. So what you do, equals to marks. So it says return the largest value in a set of values. So these are quite simple. Enter. 99. Minimum. You type in the formula, return the smallest number in a set of values. All right. turns 9. So these basic functions are the bedrock of the complex functions or formulas in Excel going forward. So once you understand how these ones work, you understand how to write complex formulas and functions and how to troubleshoot them anytime you have problems. And the good thing about Excel is that you can actually create your own formulas. You can actually create them. So even if you're maybe carrying out a calculation or something, or trying to create an analysis template, and in Excel you cannot find the kind of function you're looking for, you can use operators. You can still use these functions and formulas to create what you want. So Excel is really flexible. Okay, so you have to have a proper understanding of, excuse me, these basics to know what you're doing. Now in this case, you want to count the number of students. Okay, so it's important to understand how count function works. Count function only works when you're counting numerical values. So if you want to count the number of students, normally you might have wanted to use the column that speaks to name of students, but in this case we are going to use the student ID because these are numerical values. So what do? You write your count function. All right, once you type count, you can see here that it says count the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. You press your tab, and then you come in here, you highlight the student's ID, and you press enter. And you can see that it returns the number of students in class. So that makes it easy. So if maybe in the long run, you came in here and say you have more students, okay, and then you can use this to change that number. That's 31, okay. We can say we could just pick up some people here, all right, and then you put them here. So that's 2. You put them here. So you can see that here, if you double click, you see where your formula stops. It stops at 23, right? A3 to A23. So if you now want Excel to capture the new number of entries you've made, simply come here. Well, the cursor is not working today. That's strange. Anyways, normally if the cursor were working, you would just drag down that blue line down to 31 and Excel would reference it for you. However, there's an alternative. You can see where the ID stops. It stops at what? A33. So you can just come up here and change it from 2 to 3 and press enter. Once you do that, you can see that Excel has updated the count of students for you from 21 to 31. Easy peasy. Okay, the next thing we are now looking at is how to count. I think this is a little complex count function. So now you're adding the if statement to the count statement, okay? And you're counting based on another condition. You're saying in this row we have the sex, male and female. So now we want to count the number of males and we want to count the number of females. How do we do that? Use the count if statement. You can see it here. It says count if under this range, all right? So this is where our cell references come to play. So when we talk about cell referencing, right? Cell referencing is pretty much basic. Like you're simply saying, in this range, what are we looking at? Or what range are we looking at based on this criteria? So in this case, you're looking at cell C3 to C23. These are cell references. You remember we talked about the name box. The name box here highlights the cell that has been selected. So if I come here and I select this space, that's a cell reference. So cell reference now applies to the formula. So in this case, right, let's double click now. You can see the formula references cell C3 to cell C23. So if, for example, now let's increase this. Okay, good. So let's come up here. So count of males, right? Let's highlight that now. You can see that initially what you have is 11, but now that we have added a longer list for the gender, right? We now have to change the cell reference from C23 towards C33. So once you do that, Excel gives you a new count of males, which is 17. The same thing applies to this one. You can just come in here from C23 to C33, enter 14. So basically this function was telling Excel, count if under cell C3 to cell C33 or range C, because this column here is a range. All right, so you're saying under this range or under this cell reference that has to do with C, count what? Males. Count what? Females. That is it. And what Excel does is it goes into that column that you have referenced, that is column C, and counts the females or what? The males, and returns the number. So that's really basic and what's straightforward.